Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Sarasatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udirayet. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the myriad means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances unto the personality of Godhead Narayan, unto Narayan Drishi, the supremest human being, and unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. So when we can't access this transcendent realm that comes to us through the Srimad Bhagavatam without gratitude and respect to those who brought it to us. And therefore, before we enter into any discussion, we give our obeisance, bowed head and folded hands, to our Guru Varga and to those divine personalities who have extended themselves to us to give us access to the spiritual world. A remarkable act of kindness, especially in the Kali Yuga age, when people are preoccupied with everything except for worshiping God. The church pews nowadays are getting turned into fodder for skateboard parks. Those wooden benches are perfect for sliding a skateboard. And many of the churches I see in Canada, where there used to be multiple churches, are now turned into co-ops where people live inside and do whatever they please. So the Kali Yuga age is rampant with those who advocate for impersonalism, voidism, flat-out atheism. In the academic world, it's the norm. In fact, if one goes against the norm and advocates for theism, one will become a pariah and expelled from the academic circles. There's a stranglehold on the ways in which knowledge is passed down in kindergarten, first through 6th grade, 7th and 8th grade, high school, what to speak of the academy. So the Tato Jayam Udirayat is the very means of conquest. Unless Srimad Bhagavatam is available to people in the world, where will they go for any kind of solace or relief from the onslaught of the material nature? Therefore, Srila Prabhupada gave this indication on his way from India that this will be the means of conquest. And I have people, godbrothers, who somewhat harass me because they say, why don't you become more politically involved and mention what's going on in the world? First of all, I don't know exactly what's going on because I choose not to tune into every aggravating, frustrating detail. And second of all, because, as I responded, this is our way of speaking out against the madness of the material world. And it's not just now, it's since a time immemorial, and in every yuga, there is a reluctance to worship God. And our Guru Parampara is for God, and specifically for Krishna. So that's our response to the inane ways in which people are holding forth in the world for their own aggrandizement and for their own profit and so forth. We want Lord Chaitanya, we vote for Krishna, and that's it. And here's the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 16, made available to us by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada miraculously, since he stopped speaking at the end of the 13th chapter. He was so expert, such a great spiritual master, that he attracted those who had the wherewithal to learn from him how to translate Srimad Bhagavatam. It perhaps is even more miraculous than him doing it himself, because how would it go on afterwards? And Joseph T. O'Connell, who was a Canadian and the preeminent scholar on Gaudiya Vaishnavism, who wrote the preface to the Brihad Bhagavatamrita, he's now passed on and hopefully being born in a devotee family here at ISV. If you see a little scholar running around, we see many. He had written that the greatest achievement of His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, was to be able to bring those unacquainted with the culture to the point that they could, as in the case of Gopi Paranadhana Prabhu, do what no other Vedic scholar has ever done in the history of the Brihad Bhagavatamrita, which was to render the prose of Sanatana Goswami into an understandable flow of essays on the absolute truth. It was very difficult to translate. Only one who had understood the nuance of the teachings of Srimad Bhagavatam from the lotus mouth of a pure devotee could do such a thing. What to speak of those who put together the rest of the Srimad Bhagavatam, which we're now reading. Not just the translations, not just the adroit editing, but also the infrastructure to print such books in many different languages. All was the accomplishment of Śrīla Prabhupada. So with great appreciation for what we have, tato jayam udiraya, the very means of conquest, we can enter into our reading of text number 10, 16, Krishna chastises the serpent Kalia. And today's text is 35. And the translation is as follows. Context. Krishna has pounded Kalia, who had poisoned the Jamuna lake. Jamuna was a free-flowing river. And oftentimes along such free-flowing rivers, a lake will form along the side. Such as was the case, and still is the case. With the Jamuna, if you go to Kalia Ghat, you'll find the remnants of what Vajranabh and others had erected to memorialize the pastime places of Krishna. The lake had been miles long. I think it was 55 miles wide at the time of this pastime. But an envious person entered into that lake Kalia, and he poisoned it, ostensibly because of his envious nature. He was emanating such poisonous fumes that even the birds who flew over were affected. The grass was burned along the side. And one day, Krishna, to evoke the loving sentiments of his devotees, went to that lake and jumped in. What's more, he did it with panache. He went up to the kadamba tree, stood on the branch, tightened his belt, flapped his arms like a wrestler, and jumped in the water and did the first of what people have come to know at swimming pools in municipalities all over the world, cannonball, which is meant to inflict the most flicked upon those nearby, drenching people. It is meant to drench people nearby. And Krishna, meaning to agitate the Kalia serpent, had jumped in and made such a splash. One might ask, says the ācāryas, how this tiny boy, how would he make such a splash as to agitate the entire lake 55 miles wide? As Krishna can become the heaviest of the heavy. He's the Supreme Personality of Godhead. What's more, he began slapping his arms, which made musical sounds, which is also not much of a surprise since Krishna is very musical, and even his bird carrier Garuda, who, when he flaps his wings, creates the Vedic hymns. Everywhere Krishna goes, he does something amazing. In every move that he makes, something that catches the mind and gives us something to talk about forever. As he pranched, I think it's a Czech term, means to play in the water. In the water, he agitated the mind of Kalia, who thought, this is my lake. How dare anybody come here? And as he approached Krishna, he grabbed him, put him in his coils, and held him aloft so that everybody could see. And Krishna submitted to that in order to evoke the feelings of paternal love for Krishna. They wanted to protect him. They were afraid for his life. And everyone came running to the bank. Balaram held back those cowherd men who wanted to jump in also and try to save Krishna. And then Krishna began to dance on the hoods of Kalia. He was showing off. There was a hidden agenda because he had not made a romantic connection with the gopis, and he was showing them, speaking according to the ācāryas with bowed head and folded hands, that he was showing that this is how I roll. And a moving platform on which he graciously danced. We see dancers nowadays, and it's stunning how they discipline themselves to perfectly show Krishna's pastimes through Bharatanatyam and other things. Every gesture, every eye movement is meant to bring that out. And Krishna's the original dancer. And as he danced, he smashed each one of the hoods, the multiple hoods, there were hundreds of them, of Kalia. And each time he pounded with his lotus foot, there was an effect on Kalia's poison. That is, he spewed it as if purging himself. And finally he submitted after being completely exhausted and almost dead. He was almost killed by this incident. And then his wives, the very exalted devotees named the Nagapatnis, and we may notice throughout the Bhagavatam, Bhagavatam goes to point out that bhakti comes from those who have bhakti. And whoever has bhakti, that's where the Bhagavatam goes. It doesn't adhere to this idea of varnashram, that this person should be worshipped over that. Viprad vishad guna yatarada vindanaba padara vinda vimukashwapacham varisham manye chadarpita mano bachine hitarta pranam punati sakulamna tudburi manaha. Even Prahlad Maharaj said that these people, viprad vishad guna yatar, somebody is a Brahmin and they don't have any regard or not enough regard for the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then a dog eater, a person who comes from a family that is so low that they would just be disrespected in every section of society. That person has bhakti. They're better than the Brahmin. And the Brahmin can't purify even himself, whereas that dog eater, not a dog eater in present, but a person who came from a family who celebrated the eating of dogs and thought it was a culinary delight. That person who's a devotee can purify not only himself, but his entire family and more. So the Nagapatnis came before Krishna and began to pray. And there's a point at which, in today's verse, they recognize that their husband has capitulated. They're critical of their husband and agree that he should have been pounded. But when they see that he's changed, his countenance changed, his mood changed, they could see it. After all, a wife knows the husband's moods and could see, oh yeah, now I know what he's thinking. And they could understand that their husband had now surrendered to Krishna in his heart, that I give up. That is a momentous occasion in the life of any jiva soul. It's what takes us out of the material world. There is no other sentiment that begins our path on devotional service except for the surrender of the soul to Krishna, to God. Sarvadharaman parityaja mamekam sharanam braja. And it is the very essence of sincerity that one comes to a realization after many lifetimes. Bahunam jamanamante jnanamam mam prapadyate vasudeva sarvamiti sa mahatma sadurlabha. That my only goal in life is to be a devotee of Krishna. And Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, if you can come to this point of sincerity, then don't worry, you're safe. That's Kalyana Durgatam Tata Gacchati. Look that verse up, Kalyana Kashchit. The Krishna says anyone who has this sentiment, then they're perfectly situated. So the Nagapatnis could see that their husband had come to this point, they could notice it, and they bring it up at this section. That's where we are. So, did our husband, this is the translation obviously, carefully perform austerities in a previous life, with his mind free of pride and full of respect for others? Is that why you are pleased with him? Or did he, in some previous existence, carefully execute religious duties with compassion for all living beings? And is that why you, the life of all living beings, are now satisfied with him? And the verse, word for word, I'll say please repeat. Tapa, austerity, sutaptam, properly performed. Kim, what? Anena, by this Kalia. Purvam, in previous lives. Nirastamanena, being free from false pride. Cha, and manadena, giving respect to others. Dharma, religious duty. Atava, or else. Sarvajana, to all persons. Anukampaya, anukampaya, with compassion. Yata, by which. Bhavan, your good self. Diśati, is satisfied. Sarvajiva, the source of life for all beings. Sarvajiva, source of life for all beings. And I'll read the translation. Let's read it together. Did our husband carefully perform austerities in a previous life, with his mind free of pride and full of respect for others? Is that why you are pleased with him? Or did he, in some previous existence, carefully execute religious duties with compassion for all living beings? And is that why you, the life of all living beings, are now satisfied? Sarvajiva. Tapa sutaptam kimanena purvam. Nirastamanena chamanadena. Dharmo tava sarva jananukampaya. Yato bhavam tushyati sarva jiva. Beautiful verse. Let's have a couple chanters. Go. Taptam kimanena purvam. Nirasta. Namotava sarva chananukampaya.
Tushati sarva jivaha.
Yato bhavam tushati. Unamas. tapa sutaptam
nirastamanena cha manadena
samanena chamanadena
dharmottava sarvajananukampaya yato bhavam stushyati sarvajiva.
So these are questions they're asking. Did our husband carefully perform austerities in a previous life? And this is interesting because Krishna just beat the out of him. Poison. Did our husband carefully perform austerities in a previous life? They're saying you just beat him up. What did he do to get this? With his mind free of pride and full of respect for others. Is that what he did? Is that why you are pleased with him? Or did he in some previous existence carefully execute religious duties with compassion for all living beings? Is that why you, the life of all living beings, are now satisfied with him? And here is the purport by the learned followers of Śrīla Prabhupada. In this regard, Srila Prabhupada comments in his Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Volume 1, Chapter 16, that Nagapatnis confirm that one cannot come in contact with Krishna without having executed pious activities in devotional service in one's previous lives. As Lord Chaitanya advised in his Shikshashtaka, one has to execute devotional service by humbly chanting the Hare Krishna mantra, thinking oneself lower than the straw in the street, and not expecting honor for oneself, but offering all kinds of honor to others. The Nagapatnis were astonished that although Kalia had the body of a serpent as a result of grievous sinful activities, at the same time he was in contact with the Lord to the extent that the Lord's lotus feet were touching his hoods. Certainly this was not the ordinary result of pious activities. These two contrary facts astonished them. In 36, O Lord, we do not know how the serpent Kalia has attained this great opportunity of being touched by the dust of your lotus feet. For this end, the goddess of fortune performed austerities for centuries, giving up all other desires and taking austere vows. Those who have attained the dust of your lotus feet never hanker for the kingship of heaven, limitless sovereignty, the position of Brahma, the rulership over the earth. They are not interested even in the perfections of yoga or in liberation itself. O Lord, although this Kalia, the king of the serpents, has taken birth in the mode of ignorance and is controlled by anger, he has achieved that which is difficult for others to achieve. Embodied souls who are full of desires and are thus wandering in the cycle of birth and death can have all benedictions manifested before their eyes simply by receiving the dust of your lotus feet. In the purport, it is very rare for a conditioned soul to free himself from the contamination of illusion and thus become established in perfect consciousness of the absolute truth. And yet this benediction was achieved by the serpent Kalia because the Lord personally danced upon the serpent's hoods with his lotus feet. Although we conditioned souls may not receive the mercy of having the Lord dance on our head, we can receive the dust of the lotus feet of the Absolute through the Lord's representative, the bona fide spiritual master, and thus go back home, back to Godhead, forever freed from the misery of ignorance of the mundane world. And finally, 39, we offer our obeisances unto you, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, although present in the hearts of all living beings as the super soul, you are all pervasive. Although the original shelter of all created material elements, you exist prior to their creation, and although the cause of everything, you are transcendental to all material cause and effect, being the Supreme Soul. The beautiful Sanskrit poetry of this verse should be chanted out loud for the transcendental pleasure of the reciter and the hearer. I first offer my respectful obeisances to His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhakti-vedanta Swami Prabhupada, to the previous ācāryas who have illuminated the meanings of these pastimes, and to all the assembled devotees. Vancha kalpa tarubhascha kripa sindhubhyo eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. And the Nagapatnis, notably, are conversant with the science of Krishna consciousness. Those who are engaged in devotional service are not bereft of knowledge of the Lord, because Krishna, who is within everyone's heart, enlightens those who engage in devotional service. Vasudeve Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojita Jana Yashavairagyam Jnanam Cha Yadahaitukam means that for those who engage in devotional service to Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, there are concomitant assets. To such people, Krishna provides concomitant assets, knowledge and detachment from the world. What do they remark, or what is one of their questions? Have you performed pious activities? Has our husband, performed pious activities in previous lifetimes in order to come to this position? And we can think to a similar circumstance where Parikshit Maharaj had noting the intimate play of the cowherd boys with Krishna in Vrindavan, as he heard it from Śrīla Rūpa Gosvāmī, said, "Itam satam brahma sukhanuputya dasyam katanam paradaivatena mayashitanam naradarakena sakam vrajaru kritapunya punjaha." How is it, he wants to know. And he notes that this verse notes that there are various kinds of people who have various qualifications to understand the Lord. Some have the capacity to understand the Brahman effulgence of the Lord. Itam satam brahma sukhanubhutya. It's a abode of so-called happiness. Although our ācāryas say that this happiness in comparison to devotional service is minuscule. And there are others who can understand the Lord in his feature as God, in Vaikuntha, Narayan. There are others who have no adhikari to understand God, mayashitanam naradarakena, and therefore they just think he's an ordinary person. But sakam vrajaru krita punya punjaha, they say that these coward boys, who are they? How did they, similar question, how did they get this opportunity to play with Krishna? And the answer is there, krita punya punja, because they have accumulated volumes of pious activities. Now, Prabhupada explains in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, quoting from Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, there are three kinds of this punya. Some punya, or sukṛti, qualifies one for material success. And another qualifies one for mental speculation. So karma yoga, jnana yoga, or then there's what's called bhakti unmukhi sukṛti, which qualifies one for devotional service. And it is assumed, and Rupa Goswāmī mentions this in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, that if somebody has some attraction for devotional service, which is otherwise known as shraddha, they have somehow or other come in contact with devotional service in a previous life. They've had some contact with devotees, because where do you get bhakti? You get it from devotees. Bhaktya sanjayate bhaktya. Where do you get bhakti? From bhakti. And who has bhakti? The devotees. They carry that within their heart. And in the ways of accumulating this bhakti mukhi sukṛti, there may be a point at which, or there is a point at which, It is agyata. It's not fully understood. Although in the Bhagavad Gita, and sometimes people quote this last verse in the 17th chapter of the Gita, it says any yajna you perform without knowledge is useless. But in the context of bhakti, we see in the 6th chapter in Sixth Canto of the Bhagavatam and elsewhere, that ācāryas and Prabhupada, as one of the ācāryas has mentioned, this principle of accumulation of bhakti sukṛti in circumstances where one's not fully aware of what one is doing. For instance, one may hear the chanting of the Hare Krishna mahāmantra. Śrīla Rūpa Gosvāmī very clearly says, yad-ābhāso udyan kavalita-bhava-dhvānta-vibhavo dṛśaḿ tattvāndhānām apiti diśati bhakti-praṇayinīm. And that is, if you hear the chanting of the holy name of the Lord, or I should rephrase, those who are in ignorance of what the holy name is, or why people are chanting the holy name. Did you see anybody like that last night? How many, as a percentage, had no idea what was going on? In other words, they knew something was happening, they just didn't know what it is. So, what percentage? 95%? 95? Yeah, so those people are called by Rūpa Gosvāmī tattvāndhānām. They don't know tattva. They have no idea of what that is. But Hare Krishna is directly the Lord. And therefore, there's a dawning of bhakti in their heart that comes from the abhāsa, just the indirect rays of the holy name. And such people then can see or experience for themselves in their hearts the truth of bhakti. An amazing statement in and of itself. As is mentioned in the 6th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, in the section of Ajamil, in Prabhupada's purport, he said, such encounters are recorded and counted. And so there's a little book, and it goes in the book. And Prabhupada puts it, and it gives a different metaphor. He said, every living being has a bank account in his or her heart. And every time you come in contact with Krishna, the devotees, then there's a deposit. Of course, we have to be careful, because we may think that that means it doesn't matter how we disseminate Krishna consciousness, it's some sort of inoculation by force. Because there's a way in which, if we're artful and gentle in the ways that we present Krishna consciousness and teach according to people's cultural and psychophysiological natures, then their hearts will be more open to hearing and taking in, and they'll gain more sukṛti. There's an argument to be made for that. Nonetheless, once one has come in contact with that, then there's an opportunity at any stage for one to come to the next stage. So bhakti is awakened in stages. Adau Shraddha Tata Sadasanga is the first statement by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. Rupa Goswami includes in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu that Adau Shraddha, first there's faith. But before that, we find that there may be agyata sukṛti. That unknowingly, someone, before they have faith or appreciation, someone may come in contact with devotional service and do something to assist the devotees or appreciate the holy name. And the Bhagavatam takes it one step further. They may do so quite inadvertently. Like last night we saw, my favorite thing to say on Saturday mornings after the Harinam, we saw people who danced. They didn't necessarily jump into the kirtan, but they danced or they imitated the dancing. I saw a group, I don't know if anybody else could see them, but they were down the street a little further, and they started their own little dance party down the street imitating the devotees, over emphasizing the movements and so forth. Perhaps they were joking around, but somehow they were stimulated by the singing and the dancing. And we saw some who came along dressed in, if you want to call it that, their Friday best, and they also started dancing just out of a sense of fun, maybe a sense of imitating or more likely mocking the proceedings, because there's so much at odds with the other energy of the street. And in the course of that, they may even say Hare Krishna. Or I saw many people, couples walking along, pairs of people, and sometimes one person looked like they didn't know what it was and the other person did. Maybe they were older and had historical context. And they would lean over and say, oh, that's, and then perhaps the word Hare Krishna came. But the Hare Krishna phrase was there, the utterance was there. And Shukadeva says in the Sixth Canto of the Bhagavatam, Sanketyam parihasam va, stobam helanam va, Vaikuntha-nama grahanam asheshaga haram vidu. A vidu, a highly learned person, understands what's happening here, as do the Nagapatnis. Is that, okay, sanketyam parihasam va. There's different ways in which people may say the holy name. He mentions 6, right? He's sanketyam parihasam va. Sanketam by designation. One may call something by the name Hare Krishna. Parihasam obviously means jokingly. Stobam helanam, stobam music, musical entertainment. Helanam, mocking, like, but they don't know. Vaikuntha-nama grahanam, and isn't that a beautiful line? Vaikuntha-nama grahanam. This chanting is Vaikuntha-nam. It's like, whoops, you just entered into the Vaikuntha zone and somehow or other you said it. And then Asheshaga haram means that so many sinful activities, horrible reactions waiting to come, are destroyed by that interaction. Haram vidu. And intelligent people, those who are learned, they understand that. So the Nagapatnis, highly learned because they're devotees, and they're observing this and they're saying, oh, what did he do to get this? So Krishna's lotus feet on his head. And a comment about Krishna. He's all good. Means that his intention is to benedict the living beings. And we find his inordinate distribution of mercy is a source of astonishment to everybody. In Vrindavan, when the demons are killed, really, as our ācāryas explain, it's the Vasudeva expansion of Krishna, because all incarnation, all the various parts and plenary parts and avatars are all present within Krishna. When he kills somebody, it's the Vasudeva part of him is killing, but who's giving all the benedictions? Krishna. So in the case of, as we mentioned before, and others have mentioned, including Uddhava, the case of Putana, like, really, what did she do to deserve any of this? Everyone's like going through the verses really carefully. It's like, well, where's the part where she did something? And apparently she acted like a devotee, even though she was a false person. She came to kill Krishna, but somehow Krishna gave her that benediction. So all that, Vaikuntha-nama grahanam, that's there within the holy name to benedict those who come in contact. So the Sankirtan movement and the Srimad Bhagavatam are the panacea, because if we take those sound vibrations into our lives, then we're directly in contact with Krishna. When we distribute them, everyone who comes in contact, whether directly, indirectly, they see Hare Krishnas or they say Hare Krishna, they get a deposit. What to speak if they take Srimad Bhagavatam, and then they come in the association of devotees. And this shows those highly learned, exalted devotees appreciate that very much. And that's the highest appreciation that the gopis of Vrindavan have when they say that Buddhi Jajana, those who distribute this are the most merciful. Those are a few introductory comments, and since we only have a few minutes left, we'll just take some reflections or a question. 1, 2. Right in the middle row. 2 of you.
Krishna, Vaisesika Maharaj, thank you for the nice class. So I was actually hearing one of the instructions from Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj, where he was saying that in Kali Yuga, the incarnation of God is Lord Chaitanya, and in this incarnation he is more merciful than Krishna. So I wanted to know from you, Prabhu, like in what ways Lord Chaitanya is so merciful and how he is incarnating in Kali Yuga to spread the Hare Krishna movement.
He, Krishna, comes and gives the highest conception, anarpita chirim chirat karana yavatirna kalau, during the craziest time in the universe. It gives the highest conception of God to the lowest types of people, in the Kali Yuga-ites. And he does it in such an accommodating way because Krishna comes as a devotee. And Prabhupada explains how a teacher will take the hand of the student and say, here's how you make A, and then B, A, E, O, all the letters, and he's pronouncing them, and he appears to be one of the students, or Prabhupada says, don't mistake him as a student, he's teaching. So he comes in personally, shows this. It's also mentioned by Karabhajana Muni, Mayamragam dayati ipsitaman vadava, that he chases after the conditioned souls to give them an opportunity to take to devotional service. So Krishna is known as Janani Vasa. He walks among the people, apparently part of the Yadu dynasty. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu comes and makes sure that all the people of the world, Berkeley, California. I first joined in San Francisco. One of the first festivals I went to was in Berkeley. And there was Lord Chaitanya in his huge deity form dancing down the street at Telegraph Avenue, a street notorious for drug dealers and every other kind of craziness in the Kali Yuga. And there was Lord Chaitanya in the midst of that in the Kali Yuga, giving special mercy. But not just any mercy. Yata yata gora padara vinde, Prabodhananda Saraswati goes into detail about Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's penchant for giving the kind of bhakti that's only available to the most exalted types of people after coming in contact with the most exalted devotees, but he gives it to everybody in the Kali Yuga by his special mercy. Yes, Prabhu, you had a question.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. I have a couple of reflections. So the first one, when you were saying that the Krishna's intention of jumping into the Yamuna river and then dancing on Kalia's heads was to actually to invoke, to impress upon the gopis the first time. He hasn't come in contact with the gopis, the young gopis especially. So I was very happy to hear that. I have been thinking that his intention was to just defeat him because he causes some problem to the Gopas and the Vrajvasis. So I was hearing today morning from Prabhupada, one of the Radhashtami lectures. He was mostly glorifying about Krishna. He was explaining about the Krishna's greatness. And towards the end, he was saying that such great Krishna, he always intends to please Radharani. So actually in this pastime also we can see that how Krishna was intending to please gopis, and most important gopis is Srimati Radharani. Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you for touching upon that point. And I have the second reflection from the purport we read in the second verse, where it is mentioned that the dust of the Kalias, dust of the Lord's lotus feet was available to Kalia that time, but we can access the dust through the from the mouths of the pure devotees who are speaking Krishna Katha. So right now also we have the access to the dust in the form of hearing from people like you. So I was also appreciating that. Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much. Now, who's that at the top? Oh, well, how nice. Please go ahead, Shankari Kaur.
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj. Please accept my most respectful obeisances at the dust of your lotus feet. My very respectful obeisances to all the Vaishnavas and Vaishnavis who are assembled. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Guru Maharaj, I was just thinking that how the Nagapatnis, they got this opportunity to directly praise and offer prayers to Krishna because of their atheist husband, Kalia. So it's actually not that bad to come in contact with the atheists, because then we get an opportunity to speak about Krishna. We get an opportunity to meditate on the pastimes of Krishna and tell ourselves that how fortunate we are to be at the other side of the fence. So it always gives an opportunity to remember Krishna and purify ourselves. I was just thinking on that point.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It's always good to do something like that. It's a good punctuation between. This is one of the reasons that we benefit so much from going out to teach Krishna consciousness to others. One of the best things that can happen in the course of doing that is to meet opposition. And when we do, we become case hardened, because metal is hardened by fire. And when we associate with those who agree with everything that we say, we become soft. And when we associate with people who don't agree with us, we have to fortify ourselves. It is the very function of practice. For instance, if you want to practice and learn the violin, to come in to times when you don't know what to do or how to play it or how to make the violin sound the way you want it to sound, then you have to go back to your teacher and ask the question, how do you get this to do that? And when we, as a community, have as our main purpose to bring people from the material world into the spiritual environment. After all, that's what Bhaktivinoda Thakur says in his bhajan, Radha Krishna Bolo, Shange Cholo, E Matra Bhikachai. We're only begging one thing, just come here and chant Hare Krishna. Nothing makes us happier, right? For instance, when we were doing the Harinam last night, we saw a few people very enthusiastically participate. And what makes us happier than that? I don't know. Prasadam? It's maybe even better, because when we see somebody come enthusiastically somehow, even if they don't know exactly what they're doing, and participate, we feel the greatest happiness. And when the entire community is focused on making this available to others, then we realize how valuable it is ourselves. And it's extremely important to stay focused on distributing mercy. Tava katam ritam tapta jivanam kabibra iditam kalamashapaham Shravana Mangalam Srimad-Atatam Bhuvikarnantiye Buddhidajana. When Chaitanya Mahaprabhu heard that verse, he embraced Prataparuja Maharaj and said, "You are the most munificent." So keeping our focus on giving this to others makes us aware of its efficacy. Which reminds me, in my last point, is that we have a long streak going here, which has not gone unnoticed by exalted devotees everywhere. I hear it from various people whom I respect deeply around the world, which enlivens me because I only see my shortcomings and whatever needs to be fixed. That's not all I see, but I see it a lot. And when I hear from others that, good job, I feel uplifted through the eyes of others, and people have noticed that somehow or other we've developed a penchant for distributing books. In case you haven't noticed, we have a penchant for distributing books here. And the people I respect the most in the world of Vaishnavas notice this and point it out. And there's a lot of them. So this is important to us, the upward growth, I guess growth is upward, the growth of the book distribution here is a sign of health. And the mood of looking forward to increasing it is challenging, isn't it? It's good for us, because that's how we grow. And my main request is, let's keep the streak going, because we've never missed, ever. And it's in our pushing for the next level that we realize our dependence on Lord Chaitanya. And that's real growth, because we understand that if we're sincere and we keep trying, then we'll grow. I heard, this is my last point, is connected to my other, what I'm saying now, and I do need my bag, because I heard a quote from a former, and I emphasize former president of the United States, and in it, I like the spirit of it, so I'm going to give it as a last point, if I may. And for this, I go to ChatGPT. It's already there. I don't have to look it up. And the quote comes from April 23rd, no. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama. Roosevelt, Theodore Roosevelt, Citizenship in a Republic. Speech delivered in Paris in 1910, the best known passage. Do you know this already? Oh, that's good. It is not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles, or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes short again and again, because there is no effort without error and shortcoming. But who does actually strive to do the deeds? Who knows great enthusiasms, the great devotions? Who spends himself in a worthy cause? Who at the best knows in the end that the triumph of high achievement, and who at the worst, if he fails, at least fails while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who neither know victory nor defeat. As I like that spirit that we show up. Be in it, don't worry, just be sincere and try to please Krishna and his representative. Dear Srila Prabhupada, dear Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, for Roosevelt. Theodore Roosevelt. Dear Srila Prabhupada, dear Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Shri Shri Panchatattva, Shri Shri Radha Mohan, Shri Shri Lakshmi Nrsimhadev, if you so desire, please empower us for our Bhadra Purnima Marathon to smash our goal so we can see your mercy in our lives, and please give us a vision to see how the whole world is changing by the distribution of this transcendental vibration. Thank you for considering our request. Om Tat Sat. Everyone agrees with this prayer, and whole or in part, be ready to sponsor multiple sets. If you agree to that, please say Hare Krishna. Vanchakalpadurvascha kripasandaveva patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha nantakoti vaishnavini ki jai. And now we have a double header. We're going to have first grain ceremony recipients. So we're just slightly reconfiguring the room. All you have to do is just move back a little bit, and we'll open up the very front for the grain ceremony. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. So, to Sashi Shekhar and Victoria and Champak Gopi and Brajnath, we welcome Anjaneya. Hare Krishna. He looks ready, and you definitely look ready. Bhavya Radha, today's your first grains. Today, we connect the most visceral of all experiences that we have in our lives, which is eating, to Krishna. And why wouldn't we? The grains come from Krishna, and the digestion. Aham Vaishvadano Bhutva is Krishna himself, he says in the Bhagavad Gita. So we can remember Krishna whenever we eat, that he provides the food, and he also provides the digestion. And Vaishnavism is so sweet that we come thinking of Krishna at the junctions when we move from one era of our life to another. And it's a big achievement to come into the family of Vaishnavas, and then to come to the 6-month period. About 6 months, right? And that's the time in which there's a natural sense of wanting to eat solid food. And so in this ceremony, we have Mahaprasadam, and I can even see the tulsi there. And this is the great mercy of the process of devotional service, that even before we're fully aware of what we're doing, we have guidance from our parents to take Krishna Prasadam, to chant Hare Krishna, and to follow the process of devotional service. So to bring auspicity to this ceremony, as is the tradition here at ISV, we're going to chant together one chapter of Bhagavad Gita, and this will be from Purushottam Yoga. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Urdvamulam Adashakam Ashvatam Prahur Avyayam Chandamsi Yasya Parnani Yastam Veda Savedavid Adashchurdvam Prashritastasya Shaka Guna Pravrida Vishaya Pravala Adashcha Mulan Anusantatani Parmanubandini Manushaloke Narupamasye Hatatopalabhyate Nanto Nachadir Nachasampatishta Ashvatamenam Sudradudamulam Asanga Shastrena Gridhena Chitva tattvāndhānām parimargitavyam yasmin gata nānivratanti bhūya taneva chadyam purusham prapadye yatha pravritti prashrita purani Nirvana moha jita sanga dosha adyatma nitya vinivritta kama Tvandveva mukta sukha dukkha samjaya gacchantya nura padavavyayanta Natad vasayate suryo na shashanko na pavakaha yad-gatva na nirvartante tad-dhamma paramam mama Mamaivaṁsho jiva loke jiva bhuta sanatamaha manasyastanindriyani prakriti sani karshati shariram yadavapnoti yad-shakti pranadhishvara grihitraitani samyati vayurgandhani vashayat shotram chakshusparshanam cha rasanam granameva cha adhishtanam mayaschayam vishayānupasevate utkramantam stitam vāpi ujjānam vāgunamvitam vimudhananupashyanti pashyanti jnana-chakshushaha yatanto yoginaschainam pasyantyatman vyavasthitam yatanto pyakritatmano nainam pasyantya chetasaha yad-aditya gatam tejo jagad vasayate kilam yad-chandramasi yad-shadnau tat-tejo vidimamakam Gam avishya cha bhutani darayam yahamojasa Krishnami chausati sarva somo bhutva rasatmakaha aham vaishvanaro bhutva praninam dehamashrita pranapana samayukta pachanyanam chaturvidam Sarvasya chaham vriddhisannivishto matat smritir jnanam apohanam cha Vedaisya sarvir ahameva vedo Vedanta krit veda vedeva chaham Dvadima purusha loke sharaschakshara eva cha Shara sarvani bhutani Kutasto shara uchete Utama purushastvanya Paramatme kyudarita Yolokatrayam avishya Vibhartatyadya ishvara Yasmat sharam atitoham Aksharaadapi chotama Atosmi loke verecha Pratita Purushottama Yo Mamevam Asambuddho Janati Purushottama Sasarva Vidbhajati Mam Sarva Bhavena Bharata Iti Kuyattamam Shastram Idam Uktam Mayanaka Etad Buddha Buddhimansya Krita Krita Shabharata Om Tat Sat Iti Srimad Bhagavad Gita Shupanishatsu Brahma Vidyayam Yoga Shastre Shri Krishna Arjuna Samvade Purushottam Yoga Nama Vashada Shodhyayaha. And now some lively first grains kirtan. So, Bhakti Radha, you look fully absorbed. Would you like to take your first grains now? Kirtan.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare,
Can you get it?
Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare
Krishna Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare
Krishna Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Thank you, Baba Radha. She's not overly enthusiastic about the sweet rice, but more contemplative about it. A very observant sort. Thank you very much. And now we call Anjaneya. Hare Krishna. Go, Anjaneya. Ram, this is a big deal.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna,
Hare Rama. Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna. Yep, cloth. Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, now, very enthusiastic, I would say by natural reflex, to take sweet rice. Well done, Anjaneya. Hare Krishna. And now we're entering into the most scientific of our procedure, which is to offer Bhavya Radha first an opportunity for grabbing onto the Shastra on her left, or a huge pile of jewels and Lakshmi on the other side. And what else do you have there? Knives? Any knives? In case she's a Kshatriyat. Okay. So now, Bhavya Radha, here before you lies your future. You're going to define your future. Please choose according to your natural disposition. And we'll have a little kirtan as she very readily can crawl, it looks like. Let's have more kirtan. And whenever she grabs, just be slightly muted because she can be traumatized if you yell too loud when she grabs something. Okay, kirtan.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare.
You're doing good. Go for it.
Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna.
Yeah. We're not manipulating at all.
Hare Rama. Hare Krishna, Hare
It's the third
Krishna,
option, kirtan.
Krishna Krishna, Hare
Books,
Hare, Hare
Lakshmi,
Rama,
kirtan.
Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna.
Bhavya Radha, what do you like? The Bhagavatam, the cash? Huh? Kartal.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
It's a lot of pressure. Kartal. Okay. Spontaneously attracted to your kirtan back there. So she's going to be a kirtaniya. She went for the kartals and still holding on to them. Good luck getting them back, whoever they are. Examining them. She's seen them before in previous life. So she'll be always attracted to the holy names. She's astute in looking at her environment, and she has a special attraction for Vaishnavas and Vaishnavis. So she'll always be drawn to attached to the assembly of devotees. She'll especially like to engage in kirtan, and she'll be attentive to details in her devotional service. Om Tat Sat. Thank you, Bhavya Radha. Hare Krishna. And now we have Anjaneya. Would you like to show us your future? Just don't put the basketball.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna,
Go Anjaneya.
Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama. Books. You scared them. Okay. We're going to give one more try. Now, with the first, he put his hand on the Srimad Bhagavatam, then he bowed his head before the Bhagavatam. This goes with the verse, Gyane prayasam udapasya namanta eva jivanti san mukharitam bhavadiya vartam. Stane stita shrutigatam tanuvan mano bir. And once again, worshipping the very place where the Bhagavatam is sitting, grabbed it once, offered obeisances, bowing his head before the Bhagavatam. And now without any other, and kirtan, kartals. Yep, let him pull them down. Hear how he plays them. Very nice sound, very good. Anjaneya will always be in the association of devotees, will be talented at playing the kartals, will endeavor to hear the Srimad Bhagavatam throughout his life and to teach it to others. Om Tat Sat. Dear Śrīla Prabhupada, dear Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Shri Shri Panchatattva, Shri Shri Radha Madan Mohan, Shri Shri Lakshmi Nrsimhadev. If you so desire, please bless Bhavya Radha and Anjaneya, that they may always live in the association of Vaishnavas. May they always be absorbed in the transcendental sound vibration, and may they have compassion for all souls and help expand the Sankirtan movement. May they be healthy, wealthy, wise, a pleasure to their parents. And may they visit the Holy Dham regularly and feel joy in their hearts in Sri Vrindavan Dham, Jagannath Puri, Mayapur Navadvip. Thank you for considering our request. Om Tat Sat. Everyone agrees with this prayer in whole or in part? Please say Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. I hereby declare this ceremony an unqualified success. Hare Krishna. Vanchakalpadrishya kripasinabhevacha patitanam pavanibhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha ananta koti vaishnavindiki jai go premanande hari hari bo.